Hi friends, welcome back to another episode of Generation Tech. My name is Alan. Today's episode is brought to you by NordVPN. A VPN service so strong it can cross the Great China Firewall and bypass the Gulf state censors. NordVPN uses thousands of servers in over 61 different countries and military-grade encryption to keep your location and information safe when you're browsing the internet. For our friends in the EU, that means if Article 13 is censoring YouTube videos in your country, you can just move your digital signature to a more open and free part of the world. Get 75% off a 3-year plan at nordvpn.com/generationtech and get an extra month free with the promo code GenerationTech, one word and spelled out like you're screaming it. In one of our last episodes, we looked at why Qui-Gon Jinn refused an offer to join the High Jedi Council. A big part of his decision was due to the fact that he'd recently experienced a prophecy of its own and seen it to its fruition. It refocused his attention on the more mystical aspects of the Force, something he would have been unable to do as a member of the High Council. Qui-Gon Jinn's master Dooku had also had an interest in the Jedi prophecies, and that interest turned into obsession, which helped lead him to the dark side. Sure, the Jedi Order had become quite lost around this period of time, serving as the personal police of the Chancellor and Republic, but much of Dooku's view on the Jedi actually had been tainted on his perception of the future thanks to the prophecies. And that was because Dooku's study of the prophecies were no longer academic. An academic study of the prophecies would have focused on both the prophecies of the future and the ones that had passed. The idea would have been studying the validity of past prophecies and then looking at the individuals who actually predicted them. Dooku instead focused only on the future prophecies, a sign that he was using them to predict the future. And with a personality like his, well, he wasn't really willing to surrender himself to the future, he'd want to control it. Which is not only futile, but can push people to extreme actions and even the dark side. So the one prophecy that I really want to talk about that Dooku was obsessed with was the following. He who learns to conquer death will, through his greatest student, live again. Now this prophecy really caught my attention, just like it caught Qui-Gon Jinn and Dooku's attention. I think it's one that has a lot of effect on the future of the Star Wars franchise. And given the fact that the novel with the prophecy in it just came out a month ago, it might even have impacts as soon as the upcoming Star Wars Episode 9. Now, from a metaphorical angle, this prophecy can be very general. It could mean that a teacher or a master of some sort after their passing will live through their student because of the lessons they handed down to them. That would be the most practical and frankly boring interpretation of this kind of prophecy. I mean, it could basically apply to any person who's ever taught anything. For instance, if I died one day because, the dolphins finally got to me, I would still live through all of you good folk out there who are fighting the good fight against those aquatic bastards who are trying to take the planet from us. But what's the point of a prophecy like that? It's just way too vague and general. But if we interpret this prophecy literally, well then it limits the amount of people that it could possibly apply to. And if we look at other prophecies like the Chosen One prophecy, only through sacrifice of many Jedi will the Order cleanse the sins done to the nameless. The danger of the past is not past, but sleeps in an egg. When the egg cracks, it threatens the galaxy entire. When the Force itself sickens, past and future must split and combine. A chosen one shall come, born of no father, and through him will ultimate balance in the Force be restored. The Chosen One prophecy actually has some very literal parts. For instance, no father doesn't mean an individual who is neglected by his father or something like that. Shmi was literally impregnated through the Force. There was no real baby's daddy in the situation. So if we take Dooku's prophecy literally, what does that limit us to? Well, the first name that pops in my mind is Darth Plagueis, the master of Darth Sidious and a great scientific mind. He spent most of his life trying to recover the lost knowledge of ancient Sith alchemy, and the procedures of the past had long been lost thanks to the constant warring between the Jedi and Sith. At one point, the ancient Jedi had even been able to reanimate dead flesh and use that to patch up wounds. They were even able to regenerate limbs using their knowledge of the Force. This was obviously a very unnatural thing to do, and alchemy would later on become a Sith pastime when the Jedi split into the two more extreme organizations we have later on. Now, Plagueis was really only after one thing, and that was immortality and conquering death. After multiple attempts on his life, including one particularly close call, his obsession grew into a full-time occupation. But it actually started way back when he first killed his former master, Darth Tenebrous. As Darth Tenebrous was dying, Darth Plagueis sensed his force and essence leaving the body. Using his combination of ancient Sith knowledge, sensitivity with the Force, along with modern medicine and science, Plagueis eventually realized that when an individual dies, the midichlorians in their body would disappear, severing their connection with the Force. And so Darth Plagueis began experimenting on ways to keep those midichlorians from deserting the body, but ultimately he had a lot of difficulty because it was like keeping air inside of a bag. The Force and the midichlorians would just not bend to his will. But after decades of running tests and trying to manipulate the Force, he was finally able to have enough power to bend the Force to his will. And eventually he was able to bring one subject back to life multiple times until their organs eventually failed. Plagueis had conquered death. Now, Darth Plagueis' fear of death also led him to reject the rule of two set forth by Darth Bane. This Sith school of thought stated that there could only ever be a master and apprentice, and once the apprentice thought that they were ready, they would challenge the master and attempt to kill them. As a result, they would become a master themselves and take on a new apprentice, and repeat the process. This was an effort to keep the Sith line strong. It was also in order to prevent too many Sith from running around and basically killing each other and causing chaos. Darth Plagueis proposed another deal with Darth Sidious. Instead of trying to kill each other, they would share knowledge, and once they were able to conquer death, they would use that knowledge to keep each other alive for eternity. As the prophecy says, he who conquers death, Darth Plagueis, will through his greatest student, Palpatine, live again. So it's very possible that Palpatine, at some point in time that we don't see in the movies or the books, has revived Plagueis. Now, in many ways, this seems to go against Palpatine's nature. After all, he despised Darth Plagueis at the end of his life. He saw the Muun as weak and fearful of dying. He had killed his former master in his sleep without a second thought. So why would Palpatine create Darth Plagueis? It's kind of hard to say, but there are some theories. He clearly was always disappointed by Sith apprentices and assassins he trained. Maul, Dooku, and even Anakin were flawed and didn't really live up to his high expectations. Maybe Palpatine, after becoming the ruler of the entire galaxy, had more of an appreciation of life. After all, the richer you are and the more you have, the more obsessed you are with being there to enjoy it. That's why rich people are constantly doing crazy things to extend their lives, from injecting themselves with stem cells, drinking the blood of virgins, and eating baby fetuses. And yes, Darth Sidious was there when Darth Plagueis revived his first patient, and he actually helped him do it. So he definitely had the ability as Plagueis' student to conquer death as well. So maybe he has the old moon on ice or in some carbonite. We all know that Palpatine likes artwork, so wouldn't it be really cool if he had Plagueis frozen somewhere just waiting to be revived? For one, we know that Palpatine had multiple secret laboratories scattered across the galaxy. They were known as observatories. Many of these labs held scientific experiments and specimens. Another popular theory has always been that Darth Plagueis is actually Snoke. Snoke doesn't really look like a Muun, but we've never really seen Darth Plagueis in canon before, so it's hard to completely discount. After all, Snoke's background is a complete mystery, and hopefully we will one day find out what that background is. But he does seem to appear out of nowhere and comes to the rescue of the Imperial Remnant / First Order right when they need him. The question then is, why didn't Darth Plagueis just immediately murder Palpatine when he got revived? Well, the thing is, Plagueis is an interesting Sith. He does like power and wealth, and he has a ton of it. But he's always allowed Palpatine to be the face of the movement. While Palpatine ran the Republic, he enjoyed staying in the background and mentoring his apprentice. And in his later years, he basically became a hermit and locked himself in his laboratory. He had an obsession with the Force, and he wanted to find a way to completely control it, rather than controlling physical things like ruling an empire. Whereas Sidious was your typical power-hungry tyrant, Darth Plagueis was more of an evil mad scientist. This also meant he was a pretty rational individual in control of his emotions. He would almost understand why Palpatine did what he did, and he probably wouldn't have held a huge grudge against him. More importantly, he would have been happy to be alive again and be allowed to focus once again on bending the Force to his will. And being sent to the unknown region, which is full of strange phenomena and cultures never explored, would be a pretty good place for him to go. Now, we know that Palpatine had a contingency plan. This was in case of his death, and it involved the destruction of the majority of the Empire and its forces. The idea is if the Empire fails to protect the Emperor, then it has no right to exist. However, Palpatine did preserve a small hand-selected group of Imperials and allowed them to go to the unknown region to start anew. But there's only one thing missing out of this entire plan. Why would Palpatine, a person who was so vindictive that he ordered the destruction of loyal Imperial worlds just so that the rebels wouldn't be able to get their hands on them? Why would he create a second empire if he's not around to rule it? Well, I think there's a hidden part of the contingency plan, and that's reviving Palpatine, and he's able to do this because he's kept Darth Plagueis alive as an insurance policy. You see, the two Sith need each other to survive. So yes, I do think that Darth Plagueis is alive because this prophecy basically points directly at him, and these prophecies usually never lie. Also, the death of Snoke in The Last Jedi seemed far too abrupt and unceremonial for a Star Wars film. I don't think it's the last time we'll see him. It's also probably not the last time we'll see Darth Sidious either. So there you have it, guys. That is the prophecy that Dooku was obsessed with. Let me know in the comment section below what you think this prophecy is talking about. I definitely think it's a very interesting subject to talk about because who knows, maybe this will guide us to episode 9. Thanks again to NordVPN for sponsoring this video. Click the link down below in the description for more information. And don't forget to use our promo code GenerationTech, one word, all caps. Well, guys, I hope you enjoyed today's episode. Don't forget to subscribe, hit that notification button so you don't miss out on the rest of our awesome content. And as usual, thanks for joining us today. If you're watching this, you are Generation Tech.